Hi guys, welcome to another video. I have a lot of Scrawlrboxes. I have them for over a year now, and I thought it would be a cool video idea to show you what stuff I actually used, what stuff I would have loved to use but I always forget to use it, or what stuff I really never used or don't like. So let's start the video. I'm starting with the box that was the oldest. That's not the first box I ever got, but I thought 1 year would be a cool time frame. So this is the box of October last year. We had the prompt washed ashore and I created a cool shell scene. I actually quite enjoyed the pencils, I remember. But I didn't like the Sakura Koi coloring brush pen in combination with them. As you may can see, it's totally destroyed. Yeah. And I don't know if this even works still. Let me test. Yeah, there's still colored stains. Even though I remember I tried to clean it, there are still weird stains on it and it stained the paper. This Staedtler traditional pencil is actually something I should collect. That's another reason why I did this video. I somehow forgot about some of the stuff that is actually okay, or there's nothing wrong with that. I love to use it. And the boxes are cool and I love to keep art supplies and remember myself, but I need to find another solution. Maybe I'll just cut off the part of the box here and kind of remember them this way, because I love to paint them. That's just something that's really fun for me. About these pencils, I'm actually a great fan of them. I love the colors. And as you can see, they got shorter. But I also need to make a confession. I kind of forgot about them. I'm just nearly never in the mood to use colored pencils. But I definitely want to use them more, and I'm a great fan of them actually. And yeah, actually the pencil sharpener, I have some pencil sharpeners with cover, and I like to use them more because these are just creating a huge mess. But since this one is created actually for them, I think I will still use it sometimes. Moving on to the next box. I remember this one. It was the prompt body parts. And I still know which one was my favorite. Yeah, this one. I think, yeah, as you can see, it's quite messy. Which, yeah, I am a quite messy art creator. But I'm almost fine with it. It's just I am going to stain everything else. It's not going to stick to my hand, and that's what I hate with art supplies, yeah. The colored pencils are actually something, as you heard me say before, I don't use colored pencil that often, but I think since they are just random colored pencils, I have a great use for them in like stationery stuff. So that's what I think I will or should have used them. As I said before, I kind of forgot about the older boxes because it's so long ago. I actually have a lot of these blenders, but I use them every time. I just need to put this one to the other blenders to use it. Same thing with this pencil. I just need to use it. Those are again a great thing for stationery. That's the last one. Yeah, I'm not the greatest fan of them because you don't really have a lot of movement range when you write with them, and I'm a really flat writer. These erasers can be really handy, but I don't like to sharpen them because you just have to, it's not a lid, it's not going to break off when you sharpen it. You need to kind of pull it off, and that's not, I don't really like that, and you can't create that sharp of a tip with it. And I have like a mechanical pencil eraser that is much more useful for this. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's a sketchbook in there, which I actually used for another artwork. It looks like it is inspired from the Creation of Adam painting, but it's actually, I was just thinking about how can I combine two hands, and I was like, this seems the best to me. Yeah. It's quite thin, I remember. I use a lot of watercolors, that's why I actually never used it, but I think it's good quality and I will definitely try to use it. Let's move on to the next box. That's the most stationary box that Scrawlrbox ever made, I remember. It was pastel petals, and I had a lot of fun creating this. I was so happy to get Sharpies, I remember, because I never had this kind of art supplies before, because it's not available or it's not that famous here in Austria, so I was so happy about them. And I remember that I thought this one really stinks. Yeah. On the other hand, I know these friction pens a lot, and I forgot about these ones because they would actually be really handy for my for university. So I'm remembering a lot of art supplies now, but they were not the most fun to paint with them, not good for layering, and they are not made for it, so yeah. You can see my ring light. The next box, one of my favorites. Please ignore this one. I know I messed up. I can prove to you that this one is one of my favorites because, as you can see, there are no art supplies left in there. And that's actually because these two are already used up, and that's because I used them a lot, not because they were not good quality. I actually remembered to use this pencil that was in there, and the white artist pen, I used it once or twice. I'm not the greatest fan of it, but I used it for that, and it didn't land in there, back in there. And I'm quite a fan of the Winsor Newton Pro markers. I don't really like Copic markers. I just had a really bad experience with them. They came to me dried up and I couldn't blend them, and maybe it was a bad package, but yeah, I hated them. And I liked this one. I could blend them. I am not the greatest fan of markers because I am more the watercolor person, but I was able to create cool art with it. And I really love, this is one of my cats, and I really love this artwork. Moving on to the next box. So this is quite confusing because there was I made a horrible job explaining what happened with this box. So Scrawlrbox accidentally sent me two boxes, and I decided to give one box to my friend, but I kept the brush marker, so that's why there are 2 brush markers in my box. Have a lot of fun with the rest of the video! They are still in there, even though I used them a lot afterwards. They are just quite... their ink is really dominant. They are dark colors and really vibrant, and I love them, but they are hard to use if you don't combine them with water. And if you combine them with water, what I have realized is that it most of the time speeds up the paper, because you need to rub really hard to reactivate the paint. So I think they were great and I was happy to get them, but I'm more in love with using watercolors. So on the normal range I don't really use them a lot, even though I love these ones and I've used these ones a lot. So the aqua tint brush pens. These ones, I remember them, and I remember not really liking them. They are not like the best art supply I ever had, but they are also not like bad or dried up or something like that. Just normal pens. But again, something I could use in stationery, so I will find a use for it. So it's not like I'm gonna never use this art supply. I remember this one that's actually came dried up, so I was never able to use it. And then I got a new one, so this one actually works. And I still need to test it out a lot, because I just fell in love with the Pigma Microns, so I just used them a lot in the last months, but I think I should try this one out, so that's good to remember. The next box is the completely opposite of the other 2 boxes. As I said before, I am not the greatest fan of colored pencils, and this box was full of colored pencils. And I mean, I get it. It's okay, because some people like colored pencils more, but I'm just not this person. So I like that they are mixing up the art supplies, because you don't know what the people are going to like, and it's always cool to try out new or special art supplies. But this wasn't my box. So yeah, I don't think I will use them a lot, because I have different color pencils that I think I will use more. That's just my honest opinion. That was just not my box. And these pencils remember me a lot of my grandfather. Always used them, and he tucked them behind his ear. So yeah, that's just a funny to remember. I had a hard time with them because I was not seeing a great difference between them, as I remember. Yeah, but as you can see, I've used them a lot in the artwork. I think I could try those ones with these, because I actually love them, and I think I will create art with them again. So maybe I could mix these 2. I will try that out definitely. And this white pencil, I found it quite cool. As you can see, it's got really tiny. I used it in a lot of other artworks that I created, because it was the easiest to blend with this one, actually. I think I will use this a lot in the future, and I use this a lot. And the coolest color sketchbook I ever got. This was the only thing I was like partially happy about. And now it's like kind of one of those sketchbooks where there's bad art and that you don't really like, and you're like, yeah, it's wasted, you can't save it. That's just something with this sketchbook, yeah. Now moving on to the next box. I was so glad to see something else than colored pencils, because yeah, I already told you. Actually, I already own these brush pens and the same colors, okay? I was hoping for different colors, but yeah, I got the same colors, so I didn't really use them, but not because I hate them, only because I already owned the same and they are just drying out right now, so I will definitely use them, but not before the other ones are dried out. Oh, the next Scrawlrbox is coming in. I use them a lot. Really often. This was just a box that I could reach really easily, and I loved the art supplies, so I always came back to them. As soon as I found out that you can mix them with water and you can actually have so much fun with them because they are usable in so many different ways, and that's why I use them a lot. Actually, I used this one a lot. I used it for free paintings and I painted a lot with gold. So it's quite funny to see that there's still some paint in there and I'm using every single bit of it. I needed to search for the liquid chrome pen because I used it so often because it's so shiny and so cool. Yeah, this box was definitely a win in my opinion because I could use the art supplies so often. In this box there came some watercolor, and as you can see, it's empty. There are no art supplies in there. And that's because, again, I used this a lot. The colored pencils were quite fun, and I own a huge set of polychromos colored pencils. Even though I don't use them a lot, as I already told you. But yeah, I once bought a huge set and now I put them into the set. And I'm using them like once every 1 or 2 months. But the Aquafine travel set, I used this one a lot. Especially in my bullet journal or stuff like that. I sometimes like to create a month in my bullet journal with watercolors, yeah. What I noticed though is that they kind of crumble up after time, so they are not like an even color. Maybe they are not the best quality, maybe there's something just wrong with the colors. I don't know. The Posca pen is used so often, like in every third artwork I use the Posca pen. It's just such a cool pen, yeah. Nothing more to say. And the colored pencil that is erasable is something I never had before, and I knew that it's out there, but I never was able to try it. So I was really happy. And the next one. This box is kind of a pain for me because it was the first box I ever filmed, and that makes me really happy, but it's still wet. So I don't really like to touch it, and that's why I don't really touch the oil paints, because yeah, I just decided that it's not my medium. End of the story. Oh, and the artwork sticks together. Yeah, as I told you, not dried up. And since I never used the box or never wanted to open it again, I also haven't used the graphite pencil, but again, yeah, just a coincidence. I don't think... Maybe I will give them to someone who likes to paint with oil paints, because I don't think they are bad oil paints, it's just not my medium. We are getting closer. Of course, these boxes you already know. And you already know that I'm not the hugest fan of them, yeah. And you see there's something missing. I actually use this sketchbook for traveling at the moment because it's small and it has thick paper, so it's great for my watercolors and I love it. The pencil, same story, I don't need to tell you about the pencils. I would love to use them, but I'm not sure if they are too good for hoppala. Hoppala. That was a German word. It's like oops. Yeah. So they are too good for stationery in some way, but not my favorite medium for art. So I'm kind of waiting to use them because I think I should use them in a better way, and that's why I've never used them since the moment I got the box and created all the artwork. And I'm not the greatest fan of this one just because it's too big for me. Yeah. And last box. I hope you are still sticking. This box is empty except for the artworks. And that's because I'm currently using the Viviva color sheets in my normal travel sets, like the one I use regularly. The mechanical pencil is too something that I use so regularly, like so regularly. The Milan brush lies somewhere here, yeah, because I was using it for art the other day. So yeah, it's definitely used. The Winsor Newton fine liner on the other hand, just because again, like it's super big. Do you see this? I'm showing you to compare. That's the thickness I normally work with. And in comparison, it's just way too thick for me, yeah. Hi guys, welcome to the second part of the video. So as you can see, I decided to create an artwork with my favorites from every box. It was just one supply, but I picked it the way like they are listed on the photos. So one supply was one of the photos. So all the pro markers were one supply. I decided to get inspired by the first box and create shells again, because I remember that I wanted to make a piece where more shells are lying on top of each other, and I was just not sure. I was like, what, it's going to take so long. And this day I felt like that, so I decided to make it. And it was a lot. It took me about, I'd say 8 hours on 2 different days. And yeah, it was hard, but it was so much fun, and I'm so happy that I can show you the results now. When I look at it, I see some errors, but I also see some accomplishments. So I learned a lot about shadows and detail. And the thing that was the most fun for me was actually to use so many different supplies. So sometimes I used, for example, the chameleon pencils, and they once sped up the paper, and I tried to repair it. Drew over it with the colored pencils were oil pencils, so they create kind of a layer on top, so I thought I could repair it like this. But it didn't work, and at the end I could repair it with the thick graphite stick, which was just funny how the art supplies interact with each other, and it was so much fun to find out which stuff works together and how it works together. And shells were perfect for this because every shell had its own colors, its own color scheme, and it's kind of a different texture or a different pattern on each shell, so it was really fun to create this. And the video is really fast because, of course, this took me so long. So you're going to see the switching of some pencils really fast, because I was just not able to make a shorter video. It would have taken way too long otherwise. But it's also quite funny, I think, how the pens change all the time. And the thing you can realize is how many layers I used for one single shell. And I showed the first shell a lot because so you can get a feeling of how many layers it took to create the shell. And then afterwards I showed only a few layers of each shell, because it would have gotten way too long otherwise. But the first 2 or 3 were quite the amount of layers that I actually used on them. So I thought I'd talk a bit about the Scrawlrbox again. So if I think that Scrawlrbox is worth its money and stuff like this. So in my opinion, I am going to renew my subscription next month. So for me, it is definitely worth it. And I think for every artist or person who wants to get better in art or wants to do art regularly, it's a great chance, because you get a box each month and you have a prompt, you have kind of someone who's motivating you. And another great thing is that you have different supplies every month. So maybe there's one box that you actually really hate, like with me and colored pencils. But there are so many boxes who have cool art supplies, and actually this month, the video about this month's challenge will come up in a few days to maximum 2 weeks. It depends on the schedule that I choose for all of this huge amount of videos that I will want to show you in the next weeks, days. But there were Copics in there in the newest box, and I actually have a strange relationship to Copics, but they are really expensive, and it's the same with the Chameleon fine liners. They are also really expensive, and I would have never bought them myself if I would have seen them somewhere. But the Scrawlrbox, the money never changes, and I already paid it, so I'm just learning about new art supplies or getting stuff that I would have never bought in another way. And that's another cool thing about Scrawlrbox, in my opinion. A little bit about the history of how I found out about Scrawlrbox is actually it was Drawing with Waffles who brought me to Scrawlrbox. She unboxed a few of them, and I just really wanted to create art to the prompts, and I had so many ideas. And I couldn't find the right art supplies because I was just not having them. So I decided to create a subscription for half a year. And after that half year was over, I just couldn't help myself. I needed to renew it. And since then, I'm really happy with it. It's just, in my opinion, a really cool concept, and I am really happy. But I get that it's probably not for everyone. But I wanted to show you the reasons why I like it, and I hope this helps you with your decision. So now moving on to my favorite supplies. Let's start with the oil colored pencils, because they are, in my opinion, just a really cool concept. I've never heard of them before, or that concept. And the thing is, they are interacting with each other in a really cool way. And it also worked really well with the blenders, so I had a lot of fun using the blenders. I think that's what they are actually made for. I don't know for sure, but they work perfectly with it, so I was really happy. I think these colored pencils set a high standard for colored pencils for me, because now I hate every other colored pencil because they just don't interact the same way. And yeah, so they are now the only ones that I can use. Then the next thing, what do I see here? I talked a lot about the Posca pen. I actually never seen Posca pens in any of the art stores here in Austria, so I was happy to get one. I realized after that they do sell Posca pens now, but that's another thing about Scrawlrbox. There's sometimes it happens that I get art supplies that I wouldn't have had a chance to buy any in another way, because they are not available yet, or they will not be available for a long time. Because yeah, Austria is just not that important. So that's another thing. And I was really happy to see this Posca pen, and it's one of my favorite white pens now. The graphite stick is the next one I'm seeing here, and again I told you about how messy I think that it can get, but still it's so easy to blend it, and it's just a funny art supply, and if you want to practice shadows and stuff like that, I think it's perfect. The Unipin fine liners are so interesting to me because I've never seen other colors than black in like fine liners for creating line art, and that really interested me. It's so sad to me that the lighter color is the thicker one, because I would have loved to create a painting just using this one, but it's just too thick for me. You know how it is with me and thick fine liners. This actually wasn't the case a few years ago. That really changed for me. At first I couldn't use the thin ones. I was like, that's way too thin, like what should look good with this thin of a fine liner? But yeah, my opinion really changed. Moving on to the markers, the Winsor Newton markers. They are way easier to blend for me than with Copics. I can manipulate them the way I want them to, and that's something I really like about them. The thing I don't like a lot is that there's no brush on them, but I know that's just one of their lines, and they have brush markers too. And I think the colors are just really... they choose really good colors in my opinion. They are just usable in so many different ways, and that's what I like a lot. The Chameleon fine liners were quite interesting. They didn't work with the paper that good, but I found a way to use that to my advantage, or at least learn to live with it. In the end, I used it to create interesting texture on the shells, and wherever I didn't want to have that much texture, I just painted over it with the oil colored pencils, and that helped a lot. One thing though, I'm still not the best at blending them with the putting the other nib on technique. I don't know, it's just... I just never get the right color when I need it. So yeah, maybe I would just need to use them more often, and I will get kind of a feeling for how to work with them, but I think I will stay with my watercolors, who are just blending always, and yeah, they are just perfect for me. But this painting was without any watercolors. The main reason for that is actually that if I would have used the Viva color sheets, which I liked a lot, I would have needed to also use the brush, and I didn't have one of the brushes as one of my favorite art supplies, so it felt like cheating, even though I could have changed my own rules because I'm the one creating the rules. But anyway, I decided to use the mechanical pencil because actually I used this one a little bit more than the Viva color sheets, so it's more honest actually. It would have given me a wider challenge maybe if I would have used the watercolors on top, but I think it would also be easier on the other hand, because I could have created some colors more easily, because watercolors are just easier to mix together in my opinion. Yeah, the brush pens, or the aqua tint brush pens I guess they are called, are really interesting to me. They act like one of the brushes that is just filled with water, but they actually have quite funny colors in there. One thing that I realized is that the two colors are really similar. Yeah, but they are... I like the pastel tone of them, so Actually, the piece wouldn't look that good without them because they are kind of the base of the whole artwork. So I'm glad that they were one of my favorites. Oh, now I'm already getting to the end of the artwork. The last two pens that I used were the shiny markers in silver. I just love shiny stuff at the moment. It's sometimes hard to use it, but a little shine on an artwork just makes it 10 times better in my opinion. Yeah, that were all the art supplies I used. I hope you liked the outcome. I hope you had fun with these 2 videos. It was a lot of fun for me. And I hope that this helps you with your decision if you're thinking about getting a Scrawlrbox. The next video actually should be the Scrawler challenge of the month of October. So I can't wait to show you the outcome of this one. If you like to, you can actually tell me in the comments what's your experience with the Scrawlrbox, how long you ordered it, and if you will renew your order, and what things you like best. Or if you're also a YouTuber and order Scrawlrbox, I would love to see a video about your experience with Scrawlrbox. I think it would be cool to see what art supplies others liked. Yeah, that's all about this video. I'm trying not to say I hope again. I guess we will see each other in my next video. Bye!